Oh, let's do this. Let's do this while I got the giggles now. I'm in a better mood after trying to record the opening of this several times now. Hello, everybody. Welcome back. My name is John. This is my channel, The Origin Factory. Good to see you. Thanks for stopping by. It's August 20th, 2024, Tuesday. Hope you guys had a great weekend. I was able to get to the swap meet and I was able to go crawling. So we had a twofer. Able to see my crawling buddies, my RC friends, which was always a good time. Swap meet we got there early and there was a decent turnout, which was kind of fun. And one of the guys that we go crawling with, usually he was there later and he picked up his first Vanquish and basically a VS410 slider. He's not new to crawling, but he's new to the brand. His name is Jake. And he had asked a bunch of questions about the different Vanquish models and stuff like that. And I've seen similar questions in the comments section of my videos and in my Facebook group and even in the Vanquish pages. So I can tell that there's a lot of newer people to Vanquish or newer to the brand as they grow, and they get bigger and get more followers and more customers or however you want to explain it. And so I thought I would do an overview of the different models. So, but before I get to all that, first, I want to thank our subscribers. You guys are awesome. Thank you very much. I appreciate all of you. And if you haven't subscribed yet, you're willing to do so, it'd be greatly appreciated because that's what helps us out the most as a new channel. And if you're subscribed already, if you could continue to support us by either commenting, or sharing. So Jake, I refer to Jake as the kid because I'm old enough now where we just refer to everybody younger than us as the kid. He's actually, I'm not sure his exact age, but he's in his late 20s. Maybe he's even 30 by now. But anyways, so he purchased a VS410 slider at the swap meet on Saturday. All excited to put it together. Saturday, he was buzzing all of us on the Facebook, on our group DM page, our group messenger, looking for a body and stuff like that to complete it out and drive it on Sunday. And I hadn't planned on going crawling on Sunday. And then Mike, who lives very close to me, lives in the same suburb. He's like, I think I'm going to go. Are you interested? I'm like, yeah, let me get some batteries. And so we kind of slammed her together last minute. We all got to get together, which is nice because typically here in where we live in the upper Midwest, springtime, we're all excited to go out crawling again. And we're all very available to go do that. We have time for it. And then we get into the middle of summer and then we got other obligations. We got graduations, we got weddings, summer vacations, all that stuff. And so it seems like the peak of summer, everybody's kind of harder to get a hold of. And now as it gets into late summer, everybody's kind of making that push to go out and do some more crawling before we come into winter. I mean, we're still a couple months away from winter, but we're also on that downhill slide where our days are numbered. So everybody's kind of like, yeah, we should get out. Let's go do it. And then the more people here available and willing to do it, it's like, yeah, I need to go. We get to see each other. It's good for the social aspect, not just the driving, So anyways, Jake was asking about the different Vanquish models and stuff like Phoenix and Fordyce, and then we got Pro and Ultra, and then we got the Origin, we got the Ripper, we got the VRD, and we got the Optic. So now Vanquish has got, such a large lineup from, past and present. It can be quite confusing to especially somebody new. Most of their current and past stuff is up on their website with full descriptions, with the exception of Ripper. So if you do go to I think the tab on their website is called Kits. And if you click on Kits, you can see everything that they've made with the exception of Ripper. And so you can go in there and see full descriptions of each model. The other ones that are discontinued will be marked as such, like Origin, meaning they're not going to bring it back, or at least at this time they have no plans to, for example. And so, yeah, and I've seen comments in my videos kind of alluding to basic, from my reading their comments, that I think they might be a little unsure of the difference between Origins and Pros and Ultras, because both bodies, the half cab and the full cab, tend to get described as an Origin body, and when you get the half cab body on the Pro and the Ultra, it's not an Origin chassis, it's the Pro or the Ultra chassis. And so there's this layer of confusion out there with You know, when you say Origin, do you mean Origin half cab on a Pro or Ultra? Or are you talking to the body? Do you mean the chassis? Stuff like that. And then Phoenix came in portal and straight axle, whereas Pro and Ultra was the designation of Pro was to a straight axle, and the Ultra had portal axles. But other than that, they were very similar. There was still some minor differences, but yeah. So as you can see, then plus they've come out with builder's chassis now, which is a VS410 slider, which is very similar to like a Fordyce, for example. Minus the body and the wheels and tires. And, then they got the VRD, which, they also have the stance version, and now they got the straight axle version. And, I just want to touch on some of the basic differences on all of them, hopefully just to educate you guys, just, give you that quick little reference so you know the difference enough to hopefully it kind of answers a lot of the basic questions. Because when I see people talking about the, pros and ultras and describing them as origins, and it's not to be snobbish, but that they're saying, well, I can get this origin for much less than this origin price wise. And it's like, well, technically it's not really an origin that year. I think what you're referring to is a Pro or an Ultra. So I hope that you know what you're getting into before you understand if you're getting a deal or not. So that's my intention behind this, hopefully to get you guys a little educated and show the differences between Pro and Ultra and Origin, and then the difference between Fordyce and Phoenix. And, and now we got Optic, which Optic is a standalone, there is some crossover carryover stuff on it, but for the most part, Optic is, that doesn't get confused with other things. The only way the Optic might get confused is, what have you changed on it to make it different? Like, did you put a VFD twin in there, which is their transmission that has selectable overdrive and a dig unit integrate into it, whereas the transmission that comes with it normally is a standard VFD, which has none of that. So we're not going to touch on the mods because the mods are endless and can be any configuration almost. So we'll do some benchtop and show some quick overviews to show some of the visual differences so you know what they are by looking at them, hopefully. And some of the differences are almost purely because of the body that's on it, So anyways, it's a weird quagmire. Hopefully we can clear it up for you. But so we're going to flip over to the bench right now and switch cameras and switch microphones, and we'll go in a little bit in depth here. So, okay, let's try this out. So this is basically a Pro. The difference between like a Pro and an Ultra, for the most part, is the axles. They both come with aluminum axles. And they both come in a clear version and a black version. So black would be black aluminum axles. Clear would be the light, the light colored silver ones, the natural finish looking ones. That's what they call clear. And like I said, Pro is straight axle. Ultra is portal axle. Portals have a gear reduction out at the wheel, the drop down section with gears in it behind the wheel. So now, here's where I'm seeing the confusion. So a lot of times we refer to this body as like a half cab Origin, but this kit was not, the way it was originally sold was not an Origin. It was a Pro or it was an Ultra, the way they came from Vanquish as a kit. So I try to refer to them as the Pro body or the Ultra body just to get away from the confusion of adding Origin to that, because the Origin chassis is completely different. So, that is what we commonly refer to as the Origin full cab. And that is on an Origin chassis. And I'll show you the chassis differences here in a second. But as you can see, that's the full cab. So this isn't a right or wrong thing. This is just to help with the confusion that I'm seeing where people aren't really knowing, especially with the half cab, that it's not an Origin. And the only main reason I want you guys to know that is because the Origins generally cost a lot more. So if you're thinking you're getting an Origin when you have the half cab body, like you see a new in the box half cab, which is either a Pro or Ultra, and you're calling it Origin, it's not really an Origin. Like I said, this isn't to be snobby, I just don't want to see you guys thinking you're buying an Origin for much less money when actually you're buying a Pro or an Ultra, and just hoping you know what you're buying. So when you're buying it, you're getting it what you want, you know? So like I said, it's a little confusing because, you know, all of these full body trucks that they sell, you know, they're all on a VS410 chassis. So they're all basically on a very, very similar chassis with transmission difference, axle differences, and then body differences. And so usually we refer to each of them by their body. So, but with the Pro and the Ultra, it gets confusing because people like to call that half cab the Origin half cab, which is fine. That's not a right or wrong thing. But the truck that it came on is usually a Pro or an Ultra chassis, which is much different. And I'll show you what some of the differences are. So differences being, it has a VFD transmission, which is Vanquish's own design transmission that they came up with. And then the battery tray is behind the transmission because the transmission is so far forward on this one. There's no other place for it. But the servos are mounted in the same spot. We got plastic bumpers on the Pro and the Ultra, front and rear. We have sliders that are very similar to the Origin, except they're plastic, with plastic standoffs. We get aluminum axles with the Pro and the Ultra. Like I said, you either get straight axles on the Pro, which can be clear or black. These are clear. And on the Ultra, you get clear or black portal axles. Now, without going in too deep, the Pro transmission has more upgrades on it than the Ultra transmission. There's a few differences. I encourage you to go to Vanquish's website and read the details in the description of the difference in the transmissions. They're not huge, but they're both standard VFDs, meaning they don't have dig or overdrive like the VFD Twin. So that is, and these are aftermarket shocks. These aren't the shocks that come with it. The shocks that came with the Pro and the Ultra are the Incision 90 millimeter on the Pro and 80 millimeter on the Ultra. They are also supposed to get the polycarbonate inner fenders, which I don't have on this chassis right now, but you'll see it when we go over to the Origin. So that's the Origin, or that's the Pro and the Ultra chassis. So now if we switch over to the Ultra, or tripping on my words, switch over to the Origin. So this would be the Origin full cab body. But you see here, the Origin has aluminum sliders, and they have these Delrin slides with aluminum standoffs. Then they have aluminum front bumper, aluminum rear bumper, and then they have D44 axles, which came standard on these. This is not a standard color for Origin. Origin came in clear and black, and this is one I customized into a gray. So here's the big difference. Battery location is in front of the transmission. Why? Because there's plenty of room to put it there. The Pro and the Ultra, you don't have that option because it uses the VFD transmission, which the transmission sits way up front here, which gets the weight forward. So the axial 3-gear. So this is an axial-based transmission, axial design, but Vanquish's version of it. So there's nothing axial about it except the design. It's all aluminum case, all metal gears, all that kind of stuff. So there is the axial base 3-gear in the center of it. We also have these aluminum braces going between the frame rails, aluminum brace in the rear. So there's a lot of chassis differences with the Origin, which, you know, aren't exactly a huge difference for anything other than identifying what it is and its value. Like I said, you know, and most of these trucks, a lot of these trucks, almost all the ones that get driven get modified on some level. So this is really to help you describe with them, you know, help you to, you know, to recognize them in their stock form. So, I mean, once they get in somebody else's hands and they get driven and modified, they can be anything or everything the same as it came, or everything completely different, or somewhere in between. So yeah, so that's the Origin chassis versus the Pro and the Ultra. And I have a video on the Origin, which is an unboxing that has a complete breakdown of all the parts and everything about it. And then I also have a video on building one from Spare Parts, because these have become more collectible now as they've been out of production for a while, and the prices on them are going really high at times. I mean, new in the box ones are getting upper close to $3,000 and over $3,000 at times. And assembled trucks are kind of in that $1,500 range and up, depending on condition. I mean, less than $1,500 if they're, used, scratched up, that kind of stuff. But just to give you an idea, whereas the Pros and the Ultras, new in the box for those, are selling currently around $1,000. And so, assembled, driven, used, any direction from that, up or down, based on if it's used or if it's got electronics in it. So, there can be considerable savings over an Origin, in price. So that's why I wanted to clarify this for you. So somebody who's buying a Pro or an Ultra and they think it's an Origin because it has a, what we call an Origin half cab, this is just to help educate you that's, so you know what you're buying. I'm going to do an unboxing on the Pro so you guys can see that as well. Okay, let's switch over to another Vanquish. Okay, so there should be no confusion over this one. This one's the Optic, which was released this year. Depending on when you saw this video in the YouTubeverse, it was the spring of 2024 that the Optic was released, which is very much its own animal. Does have some carryover with the other Vanquish stuff. It does have a longer wheelbase. It does use the standard VFD transmission. And that's the other thing that gets confusion too, I see, between the VFDs, because there's the VFD twin and there's the standard VFD. And the Optic came with the standard VFD. The difference, I'll say it again, the difference being it doesn't have a built-in dig or overdrive. Standard VFD does not have that. The VFD twin has an integrated two-speed overdrive, a selectable overdrive, and then a dig unit. You, of course, can buy a dig unit for a standard VFD that goes on the ass end of it right there. So, but yeah, that's Optic. Nobody's confusing Optics yet because there's no other versions of Optic as of now. On to the next one. Here we go. Here's the Phoenix. So the Phoenix was what got the Vanquish VFD transmission, the twin, out into the world. And so as you can see, this body loosely resembles like a Toyota FJ45 pickup or something like that. It's got that little bit of a FJ40 look to it, but it's got a pickup bed like an FJ45. So in the original version of the Phoenix came with portals and a VFD twin. So there we go. There's our VFD twin in there. So, and then I got two extra servos in here. We got one for the dig unit and we got one for the selectable overdrive. And then like the Pro and the Ultra, because of the VFD transmission, we have the battery tray in the back. And yeah, like the Pro and the Ultra, I think had the metal battery tray that doesn't have the cutout. And when they went to the twin is longer. And then they went to this plastic rear battery tray. And this has got portal axles in it, plastic axles. So this was Vanquish's big jump. Let's just say to be more competitive with their pricing by offering a kit that was a little less expensive, because, the Pro and the Ultra retail was, oh boy, was it $750, $799, somewhere there, around $800. And so when the Phoenix came out, I think originally it was for something, and then shortly after it, they reduced the retail price on it, maybe $50 or so, and I think it got down to like $349 or something like that. But yeah, that was a big jump for them. I think that's what really propelled them forward in the market, is not just being only a top end, high end, expensive rig. Now they're making something that is much more competitively priced, so they can compete against Axial and the other brands that are similar. As you can see, it's got a really narrow front bumper, whereas Pro and Ultra have wide full width bumpers, just like Origin. And because that has been a complaint for a long time, when you have a full bumper going out here, when you're trying to go up a vertical surface, that bumper is just in the way all the time from your tire grabbing. It keeps your tire from getting a plant on a sharp incline. So they went to the narrow front bumper. They went to the narrow rear bumper as well, which is, I don't have as many problems with the rear bumper, but yeah, anything to narrow that stuff. Oh, wow, I lost my axle cover, my diff cover. There's a little red, like a gear, like a fill tube or a fill cap that goes on the back, red anodized. Lost that somewhere. So yeah, so now then they came out with Fordyce, which is that Jeep looking pickup, like a Willys pickup. So it's similar to the Phoenix body. And they typically came factory painted in blue and gray. And they started making those in ready to runs. And also the Phoenix was in ready to run also. So yeah, and the Fordyce you could get with, I think the Fordyce came with the standard VFD. And I think, oh man, this is where I don't know for sure. I think the Phoenix is the only one that came with the VFD twin stock. Not sure on that, but I'm like 90% sure on that. But of course, like I said before, anybody can modify these things. So I'm just trying to help you understand how they came and give you a little insight to what is what when you're buying these things, especially buying them new or buying them used and wondering what you're getting here. So you can see they don't have the sliders like they do on the Pro and the Ultra and the Origin, but we do have this nice, it is a different type of slider, which is also shaped like the inside of the body. So it mates up to it really nice, has a really nice fit and finish on the Phoenix. They also came with hard plastic inner fenders, which work perfectly with the Phoenix and the Fordyce body. These got aftermarket shocks on it already. So yeah, so this and the Fordyce aren't too different, except I think the Fordyce only came with the standard VFD, meaning no overdrive, no dig. So let's grab another one. So this, of course, is a VRD Carbon. Now that family that gets confusing too. So VRD is their comp rig. So it's a low center of gravity chassis, carbon fiber rails, lot of stuff to make it, viable as a comp rig. Angled skid plate and so forth, weighted front axle. These have the VRD Carbon has portal gears in it, or portal axles, and it also has on axle steering. And what's related to the VRD is the stance, and that's a ready to run version with metal frame rails and some other changes. And then now they have another VRD kit, a straight axle kit, which I don't think that has carbon rails either, but that's a straight axle. The VRD has a lot of overdrive in the front. I want to say close to 30% or something like that, but it also has the standard VFD, and that I know gets confusing with people too. VFD, letter F. F is FD. That's their transmissions. VRD is one of their kits, one of their trucks. So I know that gets confusing with people also. So when you hear VFD, that's transmission. You hear VRD, that's chassis design, one of their truck kits. Very capable. I love it. It does a lot of crazy stuff that I never thought a crawler could do. I have a couple different battery tray configurations in here. I got one in back here for a big pack. And then I got a small one up front, right behind the front, just a carbon fiber one. So I can put a small pack on there. It tends to do better with the small pack up front. I do notice when I have a pack in the back, the shift of the weight. So usually I'll only use the back one if I want to use a bigger battery. I'm doing more trail driving type stuff versus crawling, rocks and vertical surfaces. But yeah, so you got the VRD and you got the stance. Stance is kind of the ready to run version of this, but it doesn't have all the upgrades that the carbon does. Think of the carbon as kind of like the tricked out race one with all the expensive add-ons. And then the stance is a ready to run version that's, a little bit less. I don't know if it's even less expensive. It might be about similar price because you're getting a radio and electronics and stuff like that and tires. But yeah, the carbon comes only as a kit, as a slider. No electronics, no wheels, no tires, no body. And then they got the chassis kit now for the VRD, which is straight axle kit. So yeah, look up on Vanquish's website for all the specifics between the VRD, the stance, and the builder's kit. Okay, here we go. So this is the infamous Ripper. This is something that Vanquish made. I believe it was around 2018 or somewhere around there. This was a test for them to see if they could build something like this and the way they built it. And even no matter how well I try to describe this, it won't really do it justice. So we'll try to just be brief and to the point. And you guys may just have to go down the rabbit hole on your own someday and find out all the real details about it. But anyways, so this was sold by them in kit form, but incomplete, meaning it was just the roll cage and the body panels. So it is one of the stories I heard behind this was part of why one reason they built it was they wanted to go to Axial Fest with their own vehicles. And some of the, rules around Axial Fest is they have to be axial based vehicles. And I don't remember all the different rules, but so they built this around an axial chassis, an axial 3-gear transmission, and all that stuff, basically to make it legal as per Axial's rules to bring it to Axial Fest. So maybe you want to call it a cheater rig. I don't know. But anyways, this was Vanquish's, this is one of their, this is just one of their masterpieces that they've built. And if you look at this side panel, this is aluminum, which, okay, that's not that unusual, but this is milled down from a solid piece of aluminum. This is not stamped. This is not stamped and embossed or anything like that. This was a solid chunk of aluminum milled down to this. So when you look at this angle here, that height, I don't know if that's quite an inch, but it's probably closer. Yeah, it's probably close to an inch or whatever. So it had to be that thick of a piece to make up that whole bit. So there was a lot of chips on the floor when they milled these to make these side panels. And you can say, yeah, that seems really extreme. Why would you do that? They did it to see if they could, is my understanding. So they're very impressive when you look at them in person. They're not nearly as impressive on a picture. Same with the hood, same thing. See all the depth in there? See all those machine marks? This was milled from a solid chunk of aluminum. Jim, who works for Vanquish, is kind of the brainchild behind this project. And I thought he said that the hood was milled from a 25-pound chunk of aluminum, or was it the frame rails? Anyways, I think he said something like there's total of like 75 pounds of aluminum, blocked aluminum that they've milled down to make all these pieces. So even the tube chassis, that's not tubing. That was a solid chunk of aluminum that was milled out with a CNC machine. Same with the bonnet, the headlight, the grill, whatever you want to call it. Same thing. That was milled out of solid aluminum. So the only thing that wasn't, my understanding, was the roof panel. That is just a stamp. Well, I'll say just, but it's a stamped piece of aluminum that was bent. Nothing milled on it because there is no unique design on it. It's just a flat panel. They decided there was no reason to mill a flat panel. And it uses, an axial 3-gear again, like Origin. And it even uses the same standoffs. If you look inside here, this one's never been completely built. I bought it unfinished. So this piece right here next to my finger, we call those standoffs. Those are used on the SCX-10 Brawler rockers. They're used on the Origin sliders, and they're used on Ripper. And so, like I said, you bought this as cage and body panels and the lighting and a few plastic axial pieces like a fuel cell and a radiator and stuff like that. And then everything else you bought yourself. So yeah, it didn't come with wheels, didn't come with axles, didn't come with transmission. It was, and I believe the retail on it at that time was $1,800. So you had to stick at least that much back into it to finish it, if not more, depending on how nicely you wanted to finish it. Today's market and time of this video is August of 2024. As complete trucks, these are selling anywhere from $6,000 to $10,000. So there is quite a bit of interest, or there's quite a bit of appreciation in these. Very limited production. My understanding is there was only a little over 160 of them made. So this is chassis number 67067. You'll see a lot of people refer to their Ripper by their chassis number since there's so few of them. Like I said, there's less, about 160 of them. So people a lot of times will acknowledge their chassis number as I have Ripper whatever. Mine is 67. I have Ripper 67. And there's guys out there that have multiples of them. So yeah, that's a whole different game. It's very expensive. It's a big entry price to get into these. There is Ripper 2 on the way. I don't know if they're going to call it Ripper 2, but I guess everybody's calling it Ripper 2 until we know otherwise, but it is on the way. I guess they've built a prototype. They talked about it releasing late this year, meaning the year of 2024. So, one of their live streams, they did talk about that it is taking longer than anticipated, but I think their goal is still to get it released in the year of 2024. So, yeah, I can't wait to see it. Don't know what to expect of it. They've done pretty good at hiding details about it, so we're all a little bit in the dark what it's going to look like, but we're excited to see it, I'm curious if it's still going to have any axial stuff in it or if they've strayed away from that and that's no longer important, because when they did it originally, it was a very important part of the project because they wanted to bring them to Axial Fest. So I don't know if that's still an important part of this or if they want to keep the identity of the project to have that. I mean, I'm curious to see all this stuff. It'd be kind of cool to see it still have the axial chassis and stuff. It'd be kind of neat to kind of keeping true to the roots of its inception and why they made, or part of why they built it, So who knows? We haven't, if you follow Ripper Machinist on Instagram, he posts some little teasers here and there showing a little bit about it as he's producing it. We have seen completion of the axles. We know what the axle housings are going to look like. We have seen finished wheels. We know what the wheels are going to look like. They're licensed from Battleborn. I believe it's the Battleborn X-Rays. I'm curious if they're going to still use a 3-gear transmission or if they're going to finally use, shouldn't say finally, but if this time they're going to use their own VFD transmission. So yeah, there's a lot of unanswered questions. So it's going to be real fun to see what's revealed. So yeah, so that's all the Vanquish chassis and configurations. Like I said, the Pro and the Ultra and the Phoenix and the Fordyce and the Origin are all VS410 based. The Ripper, as you see in front of me, that's an axial chassis. And then the Optic, which is the buggy, that's its own animal for a chassis, but it does share the same skid as the VS410s. And the Ripper shares the same skid mounting. So you could put I don't know if you could fit a VFD in there because of how forward it is, but I think the VFD skid would fit in there. But the battery tray is right where the front of the VFD would be. So it would take some finagling to put a VFD in here. I definitely don't think it would be impossible. But yeah, I don't know if anybody's done that yet or not. I haven't seen that on any of the forums. So yeah. So that's an overview. Hopefully that gives you a better understanding of the different Vanquish models. So yeah, so that's a lot of the Vanquish lineup, and some of the past, some of the present, and everything in between, as much as I could think of. So hopefully this helps you guys identify these things a little better. So especially if you're new to the brand and you're trying to buy some of the out of production stuff, you'll hopefully understand what you're getting and what to look for. But yeah, so and it gets confusing because, like I said, the half cab, meaning like the Pro Ultra, how they came in the kit, that cab gets referred to as the Origin half cab, which it's not an Origin. It's more referring to the body. And so some people, when they see the kit and they see the half cab, they think they're getting an Origin, all of an Origin, meaning like an Origin chassis and all that stuff. So yeah, I don't know what to say, how to describe them better. I just try to not call anything that's a Pro or an Ultra. I try not to say Origin at all because I know that people get a little stuck on that sometimes and a little confused or not a complete full understanding if they're not familiar with the brand as much. So I try to refer to the half cab as the Pro Ultra cab. I mean, that's just me thinking of how to present it to somebody so they understand it better so it's not misleading that it's an Origin chassis with a Origin body. It's a Pro or an Ultra chassis with the Pro or Ultra body. So yeah, I mean, it's not a right or wrong thing. I'm just trying to give a little clarity to you guys because I see people getting stuck on stuff, and it's same with the VFD. That's gets confusing too, that there's two VFDs. There's a VFD and a VFD twin. Like I mentioned, there's the VFD twin came later, and that has a selectable overdrive, and it also has a dig unit incorporated, so you can add 2 additional servos to control those, whereas the VFD is their first transmission, which doesn't have any of that. It's got a fixed gear ratio, and it doesn't have a dig. You can add a dig to it, and you can even add overdrive to it, but you can't add selective overdrive. So this is all these little nuances that you learn as you get more involved with the brand, or maybe you don't, but whatever, just to help you guide you guys a little bit. It gets overwhelming. And then of course, the Origin came with an axial 3 gear. It didn't come with a VFD. And same with the Ripper was designed to run an axial 3 gear. And so you got potentially 3 different transmissions in the mix with Vanquish is different models, and then the stance being a little bit confusing because the VRD and the stance, and then the builder's kit, which is the VRD, which is a straight axle, but I don't think it's carbon fiber. It's got the metal frame rails. And yeah, read the description if you're buying new, of course. Used, like I said in the heart of the video, that used, it can go any direction because people end up modifying these things all the time. So I guess the best you can be and educated on the subject, the more informed you are, the easier it is for you to buy stuff secondary, meaning used or in that arena. So anyways, I hope that was helpful for you guys. I hope you learned something from it, especially if you're new to the brand, help you navigate a little better when you're looking through the stuff that's for sale in the used market and looking up past models that are no longer available, buying new in boxes, like old Pros, Ultras, Origins, stuff like that, where you're not quite sure what you're getting. I'm going to do an unboxing of a Pro. Seem to get a pretty good response for an unboxing of the Origin. So I do have a Pro here new in the box. I'm going to open up and we'll do a video of that probably this week even. So like I said, hope you guys learned something. Hope you enjoyed it. Thank you for stopping by. Thank you for watching. Hope you enjoyed. God bless you. If you're a subscriber already, thank you very much. If you haven't subscribed yet and you're willing to do so, it'd be greatly appreciated. And if you're currently subscribed, if you can continue to support us by either like, commenting, or sharing. So hope you guys have a great week. We'll talk to you soon. God bless.